Years ago, I watched my mother lose her job after developing carpal tunnel from years of repetitive data entry. She'd had surgery, took time off to recover, and when she came back, she was later let go. That moment really stayed with me. It showed me how much the hidden friction can live inside everyday business processes and how costly it becomes when work is spread across systems and people without clear ownership. That experience eventually led me to build Connex, a platform designed to automate e-commerce accounting and eliminate operational friction behind the scenes. As we work with e-commerce brands, especially those in the $2 to $20 million range, we've seen a different kind of problem emerge. These companies are growing. They're selling across Shopify, Amazon, wholesale, maybe even retail. But when it comes to sales forecasting, things start to break down. Each channel behaves differently. Amazon might be trending upwards. Shopify fluctuates with promotions and seasonality. Wholesale comes in large, unpredictable orders. And internally, teams are making decisions based on incomplete or disconnected data. Marketing is planning campaigns. Operations is managing inventory. Finance is just trying to project cash flow. But without a unified approach to sales forecasting, it becomes very difficult to answer a simple question. What's our revenue actually going to look like this month? And that's where today's guest comes in. Scott Ohsman is an e-commerce leader and advisor who helps brands build accurate, actionable sales forecasts across multiple sales channels. He works with companies to turn fragmented data into a clear view of future revenue so they can make better decisions around inventory, cash flow, and growth investments. Today, we're talking about sales forecasting for multi-channel e-commerce and how to bring clarity, alignment, and predictability to your growth. Scott, can you start by sharing your background and how you began focusing on sales forecasting for e-commerce?
Absolutely. I learned from selling retailers. So in the Pacific Northwest, I sold to independent, but then got into key account management and sold some of the biggest national retailers in the country and the world. And when you do that, you are asked by everybody you are primarily responsible for the forecasting. So that's how I first got into sales forecasting. And then when e-commerce came along, and then I got into Amazon in 2006, then it became a different methodology, which we might talk about. But my forecasting and sales forecasting skills came along with that. And so ending up having my own agency for 15 years, having an Amazon agency, and then joining Quickfire as VP of Digital Commerce in 2020, where we're a full service e-com digital consumer products agency. That sales forecasting is critical, and I've been honing my skills, I guess, for almost 30 years.
And you mentioned that you've been honing your skills for over 30 years, and when you take that 30 years of experience and step into a multi-channel e-commerce business, what's typically broken or missing and how they approach sales forecasting?
I have a saying that, again, I came up with over years called silos equals sadness. And the main problem is because sales, marketing, operations, finance, they're not in the same room. You have different tiers, whether it's sales channels, what have you. It's because they're not synchronized, because they're not orchestrating, and they're not all working off the same playbook. And that's typically step one of a disjointed sales forecast system that makes, there's sadness. Nobody's happy when the sales forecast is wrong.
And you mentioned about forecasting. Why is forecasting so much harder in omni-channel businesses compared to single-channel brands?
Because they behave differently. So when you look at a wholesale channel, there's some erratic purchase orders, and it depends on if you're segmented as far as product to each channel. E-commerce, you have some control over your Shopify, or if you're a direct consumer, you have some type of controls, whether it's promotional, your marketing, your advertising, there's some levers there. If you're selling on Amazon, Amazon actually has a very different behavior and methodology, because those other sales channels are primarily a push. So we are pushing products. The retailer of record is pushing what the product is, where it is, how much they want to spend, where they control all the things. It's a push to the consumer. Amazon is very different in the fact that it's a pull. So their entire forecasting system is all built on demand. Not just demand of, I want to buy this. It's all about views, glance views. Are people, who is looking at what? So you have to think about it very differently.
I agree that when you're selling on different channels, you have to think about things differently because the data looks different, product matching. And what are the most common mistakes companies make when trying to build sales forecasts across channels? I'll give you an example. Amazon may have some forecasting out of box, but it's just for Amazon. And it's the same with Shopify. They're not built for as a multi-channel forecasting tool.
Yeah, you broke up there. So first of all, I will say this, and I have said this for many years. I've told the people at Amazon forever years, anybody I've ever known, their forecasting system is probably one of the worst I've ever seen in retail, depending on how you're selling to them. If you have a vendor relationship, their demand forecasting is terrible. If you are a third-party marketplace seller, it's getting better. But a lot of the machines, the inputs of that data is just, it's dumb. It doesn't understand exterior factors. It just doesn't understand weather, price competition, advertising, trends. It just doesn't get it. So I tell everybody to make Amazon one piece, their forecasting data, that should go into the pot. But you also have to weight it and understand it and cross-reference it with your own.
Speaking of cross-referencing, how does poor sales forecasting impact things like inventory planning and cash flow?
Well, this gets down, depending on the sophistication about how many channels in your product segmentation, right? This gets into also allocation. Another huge problem for multi-channel brands and retailers is allocation systems. So if you have a bigger ERP system, even today, I talk to brands all the time. I ask, what's your allocation system? They're like, first of all, they're like, what? What is that? Okay, who gets what? When an order comes in to a major retailer or regional, is it first in, first out? Okay, that's allocation. So a lot of brands, they want to service the largest customers, right? They're a big customer. They're important. So I have to get theirs first. But did it come in first? Well, no, it didn't come in first. So-and-so's order came in first. So you have to understand the allocation system. Now the newer, more, like you said, $2 to $20 million, quote, ERP systems, it's much more about, I got to have my inventory into a single location and have that asset and that product, and I have to have the availability and flexibility to get that to where the demand is. And then if I get a wholesale order, that causes a huge problem.
And speaking of sales orders and big problems, what are the clearest warning signs that a company's sales forecast is unreliable, even if they think it's working?
This is not, like I said, silos equal sadness. This is not everybody getting in the room. So typically what happens is one form of channel. So if you have sales reps out and they're selling wholesale, they might have a promotion going. Your Shopify might have a promotion going that the e-commerce team didn't have any idea about. There could be a price matching happening, like you're selling an item into Walmart or various retailers, and all of a sudden the price goes down unbeknownst to you. They're not following their MAP policy or the repricer policy, and all of a sudden your sales go through the roof, and boom, out of stocks are going all over the place. Out of stocks obviously are not good in the retail environment if you're selling wholesale, but as we all know, no matter what type of digital marketing, advertising, D2C, it doesn't matter. Out of stocks, the machines hate out of stocks because they're built on conversion demand. So when you're out of stock, you lose anywhere from 1 to 4 days if you're out of stock.
And if you have good forecasting, you're probably not running out of stock of products unless you want to. What does a good multi-channel sales forecast look like in practice?
So to me, it's again, everybody in the room understanding anniversary. So looking at your tentpole events across different channels. We got this product going on. It's going on sale. We're doing a big promotion with XYZ retailer. Okay, well, we have to make sure that we're aligned on our direct to consumer, aligned on these other ones. The biggest problem with that is typically not everybody's in the room and they don't understand. They have their advertising budget, their promotional budget, everything is in sync. Therefore, the forecasting is allowing that. And the biggest thing I tell everybody is get everybody in the room, and then you must start with what is commonly known as a bottoms up forecasting. So that means by unit, by month, by color, even down to the SKU level of your top, the 80% of volume is typically the 20% of your products available. Everybody's got to be in the room and understand that bottoms up forecast. And then also when, and I'll just end in this. The when is very important because when you need it in your warehouse to sell can be different for different retailers and different sales channels. So not only you have this major model that tells you by unit, by month when I need it, Do I need it to have in inventory to sell on Shopify? Or do I need that in May to sell in June? Or do I need it in May to ship so that it's available in stores or available at Amazon in 3 or 4 or 5 weeks? So the when is very critical.
And you're speaking when is very critical. For companies dealing with unpredictable wholesale orders or seasonal spikes, like during the holidays, how can they build more resilience into the sales forecasting process?
It's the bottoms up, and it's actually being adaptive and looking at these and seeing which channels and making sure their allocation models are actually relevant and prepared. So I always tell everybody, you got to look in 6-month increments. The way to do that, and seasonal. And I'll tell you right now, Amazon specifically, they don't do well with seasonal. The machines don't do well with a forecasting model of seasonal because the machine doesn't understand. It's not built for that. Their inventory management flows aren't built for it. It's very tough. It's challenging. They also are putting in more stringent constraints as far as loading product up for a highly seasonal. We sell a ton of very seasonal products that literally we have 5 to 6 weeks to make up all of our business. And when you look at that, synchronizing that through, it is the bottoms up. It is making sure that 6 months in advance, you know what your promotional calendar is, you understand your advertising levels, and you know what stuff happens. So the more flexibility you can have in your inventory, that way you can move and basically push that to the right place. But it's very difficult. Seasonal businesses, especially from an Amazon and marketplace standpoint, is extraordinarily hard because on the wholesale side, you're able to front load, right? They want the product in their distribution centers to go push out to stores.
And you mentioned about pushing things out to stores and distribution centers. If you had to simplify sales forecasting for a $20 million e-commerce brand, what's the first practical step they should take this quarter?
Again, somebody else made this up. I don't know. I was taught this a long time. It's like it's the assortment P&L matrix. Okay. So a lot of companies, they get over assorted and over portfolioed, and they sit there and they're just, hey, we got an order here. We got to hear this. People want that with people. Okay. Get up on a whiteboard, on a dashboard, on a Excel. It doesn't matter. What do you sell? And then put who you sell it to. And then you figure out the P by that item. Is that a good channel? Am I making money to that channel? Then you can add other sophistications and level to it of, we do 70% of our business in these 3 months for this retailer, or it might be overall. So I start people with that, again, then looking the bottoms up, but it's so fascinating when I talk to companies. Oh, well, why do you have that item? Oh, well, because so-and-so wanted a private label item or what have you. We had that. Why is it still in the catalog? I don't know. It probably should. Do you sell a lot of it? Yeah, we sell it here. And then you drill down. Do you guys make any money? No, we don't make much money there. Then why is it there? So if you pull back macro and figure out your sales channels and your segmentation by channel, and you look at the P&L across those, it is eye-opening how many companies stand back from that exercise and go, man, we are selling the wrong things to the wrong places sometimes. Or I didn't know we were doing so much business in this channel. We need to move that item to that channel. So simple things like that. And again, silos equal sadness. So the more people that are in the room understanding that and the input, that will give you a higher likelihood of sales forecasting. But I will end with this, Joe. Just when people say, how much are we going to sell? How much if I do this, I can do this? A lot of times the right answer is, I don't know. Nobody likes that answer, but that's the truth.
Yeah, I found that at our company, in retail especially, you get busier sometimes than others. I have companies that get busier on Valentine's Day, like they sell flowers, for instance. They get busy towards the Christmas time. I have some companies that they have flat sales no matter what part of the year that it is. So Scott, I want to thank you for breaking down something that so many e-commerce brands struggle with, but don't always have a clear framework to handle. One of the biggest takeaways from today is that sales forecasting isn't just a finance exercise, it's a cross-functional capability. When forecasting is fragmented, decisions become reactive, inventory gets misaligned, and cash flow becomes unpredictable. But when companies build a clear, shared vision of future revenue, everything starts to align. Teams can play with confidence. Inventory supports demand instead of lagging behind it, and growth becomes something you can actually anticipate, not react to. If you'd like to learn more about Scott, you can connect with him on LinkedIn or check out his Always Off-Brand podcast to hear raw, real-life experiences of e-commerce. If you're scaling across multiple channels and struggling with fragmented data, manual reconciliation, or unclear visibility, visit connexecommerce.com to see how automation can give you the clarity needed to support better sales forecasting and decision making. If you found this episode valuable, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a founder who feels that their e-commerce growth is harder to predict than it should be. Thanks a lot.